John Mueller, he's the Woody Hayes Professor of National Security Studies at Ohio State University, and he is the author of Overblown, a provocative new book that will get you thinking, and it could even get you angry. 1-800-955-1776. All right, let's say, Professor Mueller, that it's September 12th, 2001, and President Bush, still reeling from the most devastating terrorist attack in all of human history, picks up the phone and he calls Ohio State and he brings you to the White House and says, okay, John Mueller, what do I do next? What would you have told him?
Well, you obviously want to go after the bad guys, and he launched a war in Afghanistan to do so, which was generally pretty successful, though it's looking less and less and good now. But anyway, the basic idea of going after the bad guys through policing or through military action makes a lot of sense to me. My main proposals would be to continue policing, particularly international policing, which seems to be reasonably productive. Also, doing efforts to try to reduce the dangers that terrorists could get nuclear weapons, since that would be a massive disaster. Though I think the likelihood of them getting is pretty small. What I would add, however, is trying to doing things to try to actually reduce fear rather than exacerbate it. Politicians on both sides of the aisle have constantly been hyping this threat, as has the media, as has the bureaucracy, as has people selling things to the government. And it seems to me that the fear is very costly. Between 9/11 and the end of the year 2001, 1,000 Americans died because they drove rather than flew, and that's really terrible. I'd also try to, although you want to shore up the borders and you want to protect some things, the idea of trying to protect everything that can possibly be a target, it just strikes me as being sort of self-parody. We've got now a list of 80,000, and some people say it's up to 300,000 potential terrorist targets in the United States.
And you mentioned some of them in your book that are amusing.
Yeah, like Weeki Wachee Springs in Florida, which has mermaids in it. Basically, the idea is that trying to protect every shopping mall is bizarre, because even if you did protect it, even if it's possible, the terrorists, unlike a hurricane, which doesn't change because you're protected, to get terrorists say, well, I can't hit that shopping mall, so I'll hit a different one, and there's obviously no gain. So the sort of desperate effort to everybody comes through with a new target. And so the Department of Homeland Security feels that they have to secure that target when there's basically an infinite number. I would try to tell people, as the first caller did, you live with a certain amount of risk. We can't protect everything. We live in a free society, and to make everything invulnerable is just a hopeless enterprise. But nonetheless, the politicians constantly talk on both sides of the aisle about we got to protect every train, every bus, every McDonald's, every shopping center. And every place of assembly, and it just seems to be that's ludicrous and extremely expensive.
Let's go to Kelly, Chicago. You're on the Michael Medved Show with John Mueller.
Michael, Professor. Great show, Michael. Professor, you scare me senseless. We have enough trouble in this country getting people to take this war on terror seriously, and now you're going to come along and tell us all that it's overblown. You're wrong for so many different reasons, but three quick ones.
Okay.
First of all, your notion that other things are so much more dangerous, that more people are going to die driving their cars, or more people die at home. The difference is my car is not conspiring to kill me. My toilet hasn't gotten together with the other toilets and said, let's drown this guy. So that's apples and oranges, and you're way off on that. Number two, you don't know what the people with the top secret clearances know about this threat. So you can assume that whatever you do know is only part of the information. And number three, back to the original, well, just now I got four. I'll give you just this last one. Your notion that we can't protect all of these different venues because they're too numerous is exactly what Al-Qaeda wants us to say. Oh, it's too complicated, forget it. The right answer is that I do protect what I can protect. I'm the captain of a small ship here in Chicago, and I'm responsible for the safety of my passengers. And if I can make that terrorist go to a different venue and not blow up my ship, then I've done my job. And I'll let him go to Professor Mueller's neighborhood instead, where everything's peaches and cream.
All right, quick response, Professor Mueller.
Yeah, well, that's cheerful. The bathtub deaths and terrorist deaths are obviously not morally equivalent, but what I want to point out is the number of people being killed by terrorists is really quite small. Maybe, if they get nuclear weapons, that could change, but it seems very unlikely, and at present levels, it's just not a very big
Why is it unlikely,
threat.
if Ahmadinejad succeeds in developing nuclear weapons, why is it unlikely that he gives it to his friends in Hezbollah?
Well, there are worst case scenarios you can imagine of. He's not in very good shape politically, partly because of his policy. He lost elections, and I don't think it's very likely he's going to palm them off. That would be something you'd want to keep a careful eye on, of course. In terms of the top secret types, I mean, presumably FBI Chief Mueller knows more than I do, but what he's been saying lately is the chances of terrorists, what we mostly have to worry about is these homegrown types, and they're very unlikely to get any kind of weapon of mass destruction. And if protecting one area simply means that the terrorists then blow up somebody else, that may be good for the first area that's protected, but basically there hasn't been much gain. People are still being killed by terrorists.
Let's go to Mike in Denver. You're on the Michael Medved Show with John Mueller.
Medved Show, outstanding. Thank you so much, Michael. The one of the things that I told your screener was that the last part of my Navy career I was in Saudi Arabia and also a year in Pakistan. And Professor, what I'd like to run past you is one of the things I experienced is the people there are very focused on leadership. They won't just get together and decide to go do this. In my opinion, with the weak leadership that is now in place or non-existent with Al-Qaeda is one of the main reasons why we haven't seen any attacks. And then the other thing, another question I just want to run past you, is I'm really concerned about the weak leadership in Washington. Some of these people who have never been anywhere, but they're good SES people or appointees, and they know nothing about what may be going on. And really appreciate everything you're doing. I think
we'll come back to that. What about the weak leadership in Washington? That troubling question of competence being raised so forcefully against the Bush administration in the last couple of days. We'll be right back. I want to get one thing on the record with John Mueller, the author of the very provocative and controversial book Overblown. It's posted on our website. John Mueller, you say repeatedly in your book that the Bush administration overreacted to the terrorist threat, but you do not have any truck at all, do you, with the idea that the Bush administration staged the terrorist threat or that 9/11 was an inside job? You're not one of those.
No. It's they except for basically the standard version is these 19 guys put in action by Osama bin Laden, paid for. It just seems to be totally convincing to me.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Chris, Philadelphia. You're on the Michael Medved Show with John Mueller.
Yes, Michael, great show. Dr. Mueller, I have a contention with your premise that Al-Qaeda is unwilling or unable to do these things despite what the Bush administration is doing, because why were they so successful in the 90s by hitting the embassies, bombing for the first World Trade Center bombing and things of that sort?
Well, I do think they're out there. I do think they want to do damage. The reason I come to the conclusion they don't seem to be very capable or competent or numerous or dedicated or devoted is because they haven't been doing very much. They've been sending out all kinds of videos and audios and stuff about and huffing and puffing.
Yeah, they've been too busy making movies.
But you don't give the Bush administration you give them zero credit for causing those problems with Al-Qaeda?
No, I think the disruption has been helpful. But on the other hand, obviously, despite the disruption in Afghanistan and other things of the Bush administration, the Al-Qaeda types have been able to pull off some terrorism around the world, and obviously in Madrid and London and Bali and other places, Jordan.
All over India.
Yes, that's right, India, though that's somewhat more associated with Kashmir, I think. So that has happened, but the amount of destruction that they've been able to do is thus far has been quite limited.
And
obviously, the best limit would be zero, but nonetheless, it's not very high.
Tim, Atlanta, you're on the Michael Medved Show with John Mueller.
Hey there, Michael. Thank you for taking my call. My contention really is and I don't mean this to sound contentious, but the dismissive way that the potential nuclear concern is just backhanded as, that's really not a problem. And yeah. I guess where my concern raises that if we're right once, then hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of Americans will reach 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit in less than a second. We'll lose a major city.
That's
Quick
right.
response, John Mueller.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I'm in favor of trying to reduce that probability. It's just that people have been talking about this for 40 or 50 years, terrorists or mafias getting nuclear weapons. They're very difficult to put together, very difficult to transport, and very difficult to set off. I doubt if they could kill millions of people, because the kinds of bombs they would get would be comparatively small, but they could kill tens of thousands. You're quite right on that.
Well, this is one of those
agenda.
issues, John Mueller. I can't say that you are right, but I can say that I hope that you are right. The book is Overblown. It bears further discussion in this greatest nation on God's green earth.